is to successfully stand up off of the ground, because most of the time the opponent will end their combos into a hard knockdown and then just immediately go for a safe jump. This is actually one of the scariest situations in the game, because the opponent just has a million mix-ups they can usually go for. Examples are things like May's 4-way throw mix, he knows literally everything, Milia's everything, empty jump low versus throw mix-ups, whiff setups into command grabs. This is one of the hardest things to defend against in this game, unless you have a DP or a reversal to interact with the opponent. The thing about reversals while you're knocked down is that the opponent will almost always have a way of circumventing them. Using Mei as an example, she can do a throw and then immediately J2H, and if you did a reversal, she'll be able to block it and just immediately get a full fucking punish. And on top of that, a lot of reversals in this game can kind of just be thrown on WAKEUP. Like an example again is Mei doing throw into a J2H, except she makes it whiff, and she does overhead kiss, and it beats basically every DP unless it's like actually a reversal like Ramafal, Mortombato. Then you get smoked. The right situation to use the reversals actually is when the opponent actually goes for a mix-up instead of a safe jump. Like for example, if Mei goes for a low after her throw, you can reversal through the low, and there's nothing she can really do about it once she's committed to it. But if she goes for her safe jump, then obviously you're fucked. So if you have a read, you can almost always go through it, especially if an invincible attack instead of just like a reversal DP. Otherwise, you should always be choosing to use your faultless defense on WAKEUP for two reasons. For one, it means you're blocking, which is already better than like 90% of players in lower levels, so you're on the right track, boys. But as well, it'll push the opponent back, and one of your main goals during defense is to get some space from them, because it forces them to overextend in the future, which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes. But the main way you'll be defending against most mix-ups is through something called a fuzzy guard, which is basically just blocking all the opponent's mix-ups of high versus low. Because normally you can basically switch at just the right time, so you'll block the overhead, and when the second they touch the ground, you block low and put your low guard up. This is sometimes harder and more ambiguous than it sounds. Some characters do this a little better than others. For example, Milia and Ino are premier examples of high versus low characters that force you to fuzzy guard. Leo as well in a different manner. But did you know there's actually a way of practicing this in the game itself? You go to your mission modes, you go to the 5th option at the bottom of the list, and then down there you'll see an option to practice your fuzzy guards. It doesn't show you the way of doing it through aerials, but it does show you for basically blocking a low attack versus a dust attack. Because there's always a timing that covers both. You just have to get practice in training mode and in game. You'll be okay. Another fuzzy you should be learning is something called a fuzzy backdash and a fuzzy grab. Because a common mix-up in this game is to not actually do an air attack, and instead the second you land, you grab the opponent with either a command grab or a normal grab. So you can defend against this by the second the opponent lands, you either tech a throw or you backdash or you jump. So this will make yourself very hard to grab if you practice it. At this point, you successfully defended against the opponent's knockdown pressure through a mix of fuzzy guards and maybe a bit of luck. You might just get schmicked sometimes though, and it do be like that. Welcome to Guilty Gear. If you use faultless defense against any of the opponent's safe jumps or mix-ups during the knockdown phase, you'll be in a significantly better situation moving into the block string phase. To use Mei as an example, if she did a JH safe jump in the corner, and then she wanted to go and dash in and do a close slash or an overhead kiss mix-up, she would actually be open to being mashed out by her 5P because of the fact that she's so spaced out after she gets faultless defense. Obviously, the opponent can just frame trap with say a 5H or a 6H here, but keep in mind if they're dashing immediately or trying to frame trap you, because if they're not frame trapping, that's a very small opening for you to exploit. But continue to follow the golden rule of always block until the opponent gives you a reason to stop blocking. Let's go on to make an assumption that the opponent has dashed in and does a close slash on you because you're being passive and waiting for your turn, or they did it as a meaty, which is also pretty common to be honest. There are two rules you should be following at this point, which is to use faultless defense on every close slash, and to always block until the opponent gives you a reason to not block. When you faultless defense an attack, it forces the opponent to dash at you to get something scary. For example, Mei, if she lands your close slash and you FD it, she can no longer always reach you for 2k for example. So she'll have to frame trap you with a 5H, and then once you've stopped mashing, she'll have to dash in and grab you or 2k you or something like that. This gives blocking a legitimate advantage in all situations, because it's going to force the opponent to eventually overextend to try and open you up, which will let you open them up in reverse instead. As an example, the way I defend against Mei is that I'll block every frame trap, and the second they dash at me, I'll try and throw them out of it. The reason this works is because if the Mei wants to open you up, they'll have to do a very specific string, which is close slash into a dash into a 2k, because that'll counter hit somebody who mashes on reaction to a dash, which isn't very common but it is something that happens. This will require practice from you, especially in training mode and in game. But basically, you block their frame trap, and the second you see a dash in, you tech assuming it's going to be a grab, because most people when they do dash at you, they're just going to do a grab. Until you've proven you can tech from on reaction. The big thing for reacting to dashes, however, is to mix up how you react to them, because the opponent will always have an answer to them if they're ready. For example, if the opponent wants to say run up and dash back to bait out a grab, then that's when your up dolphin can be good because it's throw invulnerable while also being able to catch backdashes potentially. Same thing for S dolphin, I don't think that one's throw invulnerable, I'm not entirely sure. Or just backdashing when they dash at you, which leaves you open to close slash for example. But it beats grabs and certain other kinds of strings like shimmies. You're gonna have to get a feel for how they're gonna want to adapt to you. But in the meantime, just tech their throw every single time until they've proven they can adapt to it and go from there and try out different options. And a small clarification, I'm not always talking about close slashes. For example, Go5K is a good example of a move that has pretty much the exact same mix-up tree. You'll get a feel for what moves I'm talking about as we go forward. If you force the opponent to try and frame trap and you didn't mash on them because you shouldn't be, you've already won half the battle. Because after the opponent is cancelled into a heavy move, you go onto something called the stagger phase, which is where the opponent is either going to cancel to a special move like a dolphin, or they're going to try and reset their pressure by dashing in, or going for another heavy attack immediately, or a 5k. This is one of the harder things to defend against, and is a common strategy at high level. For example, when I was fighting Lament, he would often just cancel almost never into his dolphin, and just keep mashing 5H to make me want to try and take my turn back. Then the second I took my turn back, he predicted it and then did a counter hit S dolphin into a big ass combo, and it felt very dumb, so you can tell how this strategy is very effective. My tips on defending against this is basically mix up how you take your turn back. Jump sometimes, backdash sometimes, mash sometimes, and more often than not, just block it out and wait and see if they'll actually cancel into a special move, which is when you've officially almost more or less won the situation. FD here is also kind of helpful, but I would recommend not using Faultless Defense on heavy moves because they're already spaced out far enough and you'll be forced to dash either way, so I would recommend not doing it here. At this point, you move on to the final phase, which is to properly defend against a special move, because this is your opponent's last chance for frame trapping you, but they can also choose to actually reset their pressure pretty often. Using Mei as an example, her Heavy Slash Dolphin can be used as a reset here, which makes her +5, and she can basically dash in and get a mix-up or frame trap you and stuff like that. Giovanna as well with her Drill Kick, which can reset pressure, her Flip Kick, Heavy Slash, like Stroke the Big Tree. There's a lot of moves here that you need to be ready to punish. The thing about special moves like this is that you can always react, and I mean always react. If Mei does Heavy Slash Dolphin, you be ready to 6p them. And if they did S Dolphin, you just block. I mean, I know that sounds, I know it's easier said than done, but basically, you block if they do a fast special move, and if you did a slow special move, you immediately drop your guard and counter hit them out of it. There's a lot of situations like this in the game, but you'll need to practice. For example, Leo, he can do a same side attack, which is very fast, or he can go over a cross up, which you can throw him out of it. Fast Stroke the Big Tree is minus, so you just block it. Her slow one, you throw her out of it. Giovanna, her Drill Kick, you 6p it. Her Flip Kick, you 6p it. She does her little fast Doggy Kick, you block it. It's really hard, but you'll eventually get the muscle memory to just block it out and 6p on reaction. Be a fucking robot, you feel me? This is something a lot of people get wrong actually in my coaching sessions, which by the way, I'm a certified Metafide coach, so if you want to become better at Mei, make sure to reach out to me on my Metafide page. But pretty often the opponent will just kind of let them reset their pressure over and over with Heavy Slash moves, which is a very big flaw that you need to be ready. But after you've blocked the fast special move, you're going to have to poke back at them. Do not let the opponent get away with these things. A common habit with my students is that they'll block, say, an S Dolphin, but not poke back and just block. There's a ton of things you can do in a situation depending on your spacing. S Dolphin, you press 2S, the opponent is forced to block it or forced to backdash. You can jump just to take your turn back. Mei is extra special, you can just super jump out of there in JD, then get some mix-ups. You can dash in and throw them if they're being passive. You can dash in to get your block string started. You can dash in 2K. Sometimes 2K just straight up reaches. You can get a mix up between frame trap 6H or dash in and overhead kiss them. You can 5P 3K to do like an Uno reverse card to straight up punish them sometimes, depending on the special move. There's a ton of things you can do in this situation that you need to take advantage of. If you're just sitting there blocking, you've made a mistake. The only reason you sit there and block is you think they're going to do DP or a reversal like Orca. That's the only excuse, but even in that situation, you should jump back and see if you can get something started. Other than that, That's about it for defense. I know it doesn't cover everything, but that's how I approach defense. Make sure to comment down below. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.